morning and welcome to Retirement Tax Matters. I'm Adam Reed. This is Garrett Crawford, our resident CFP, and we kind of have a special episode, I guess, airing today. It's our 1-year anniversary, right? And so
cue celebration, fireworks,
confetti going off everywhere. It's like the July 4th, 250th anniversary. But yeah, I think we were looking back today, and our first ever episode was July 23rd of last year, which is funny because my son was born last year on July 23rd, and I was like, how do we post this? And I guess we had posted it the week before, and then my wife went to labor and had him. So happy birthday, Bennett. And then on the day that we're recording this, my 6-year-old, a 6-year-old today. So a lot of summer birthdays. Happy birthday, Dawson.
Summer birthday celebrations all around. We should bring them in one year.
Well, and it's funny, they're young enough where, like, if I show them this episode later, they're going to be like, I was on YouTube. They're going to think they're famous. So I'm like, I'm not going to show them the view count. Just let them think, hey, this is some big, exciting video. But,
so in the comments, happy birthday, Bennett, I think would be a great one.
There we go. Yeah, blow it up. Happy birthday, Bennett. So, but anyway, maybe a good segue. I think as we've been building this YouTube channel and working on it, maybe go back and look at that first video. We've come a long way. New backdrop and some new microphones, and I think Garrett and I like to think that maybe we're getting more comfortable in front of the cameras. It's kind of awkward that first time.
You were always naturally comfortable, right?
It just feels kind of weird though. You're just talking into the abyss, and it's cool to see that some people are kind of following along and they're listening.
And I remember that feeling too. We started this. It was like we were looking into our camera here, and I just remember it's the black abyss out there. Who knows if somebody's watching, but we're just going to kind of show up and faithfully do this. But I remember that feeling. It's like, who's out there? What's in the abyss? But here we are.
Yeah, and as we're building this community, I think just kind of for you guys, I think over almost 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is
wow.
I feel like that's kind of a fun milestone.
More than I would have thought.
Yeah, we're over 900 now. So I would think probably in the next month or so over 1,000. We've had a couple videos for us go viral. Not on Mr. Beast level or Dave Ramsey or anything, but and then I think Apple, Spotify, we've got a few hundred people that are listening every week and kind of tagging along. So it's been a fun journey, and we appreciate you guys tagging along with us. So don't want to be too long-winded with the thank you and kind of the excitement, but it is a cool milestone.
Yeah, I totally agree.
We're here doing it because you guys are following along.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
I think if we were still at 1 subscriber and like 10 views a video, I'm not sure we would have made it a full year. So it's exciting to see some traction as we grow.
Absolutely.
So.
And actually, like real people calling us and talking to us and getting to know them. It's been. I told people this year we're from Knoxville, Tennessee, but having to like broaden horizons, and so like West Coast phone calls, New York City, all over the country that people are tuning in and listening. So it's been pretty fun.
This year, I'm thinking we go global. Start taking calls from Tokyo and over in Germany.
We're gonna have to get an international tax expert in here for that. Maybe you could do that in your free time.
Yeah, I'll just brush up on that while I've got all these little kids in the house. So, but I think one of the things we wanted to discuss today is kind of building this podcast and seeing it grow, and kind of reminds us some of financial planning. And I wanted to hear a little bit about your background, Garrett. And as we got into the podcast space and doing some of these things, we kind of had the end goal in mind of what we were doing, but there was a lot of pivots and challenges along the way, and maybe to share some too about you as maybe a natural DIYer, but then getting into this and now working with kind of me as a team, that dynamic, and just share some thoughts you've had as we've reflected on podcasting and look at everyday our financial planning for our clients. What are some parallels you see, or what are some things that have been on your mind?
Yeah, so I think anniversary, even with clients, it's like when you reach milestones, it's helpful to like look back and see what you learned, what you could have done better. I think that's all part of like a planning development process. But I think like one kind of cool thing about what we're doing is I've been in the industry now for 13 years, and our registered investment advisory firm, we've been around for a long time, and it's not like you and I are hanging out in our garage like wondering, hey, we got to find a new client through doing this podcast marketing. And in fact, we're coming from an opposite side where we have a kind of stable, mature firm, and even it's interesting as we've been doing it, even like the financial capacity, we could put money into this, but our feeling has been like, let's try to keep it organic. Instead of doing Facebook ads and spending tons of money to try to grow this thing, I think we just kind of tried to faithfully show up every week and share these conversations that we've had with clients. And if it catches on, great. If it doesn't, actually, one funny side story, one of my whole premises of doing this, and we'll get into it maybe a little bit later, was when I met Adam a year ago. well, actually longer than a year ago now, a year and a half ago, we were growing, and we needed to find another advisor to help kind of support the number of clients that were coming on board. And I met Adam, and it was really just like one of those, hey, we need another helping hand around the office. And when you showed up, we had no intention of doing this podcast at all. That was not on my radar. But as I got to know Adam, it was like, I think he'd be really good at this. But the kind of behind the curtain thing I've shared with a couple people, I don't think I've ever shared it here, was, I didn't have like a real formal training process and plan when you came on board. And, I knew we were doing this tax planning, but I thought, what if, Adam seems to be like really good at processing information quickly. What if we did a podcast where, he's kind of like the MC of the podcast, and he'd have to sit there and listen to me talk about advanced tax planning for hours and hours and hours and hours. And that was kind of like part of the dual goal of this, was like it could be training ground that you could kind of learn the corporate kind of company speak, how we do it. And what surprised me is it was only like a month or two in, I was like, oh my gosh, he's like absorbing all this real quickly at a much faster pace than I ever would have guessed. And it turned from like training ground into, no, I'm actually really enjoying this. And I think we've just kind of kept it organic in the way that we're doing it. And even the other behind the scenes stuff is just from like a technical thing. We do all of our video production. We designed all the cameras and the software to do all this, and a lot of our natural giftings come into producing this. But I think kind of outsourcing it too early to other people to do, you kind of lose some of the authenticity of the messaging that we're trying to give.
Well, it's funny to color that a little bit more too. I started at a more traditional financial advising firm where they're managing investments, and that's kind of the bread and butter. And so it's funny. I've heard a lot of the things that we're doing, like Roth conversions, but I never really knew. Maybe I knew the why behind them, but I didn't know the kind of the details. Like I'd never heard of an IRMA surcharge before I came here. And it's like, how are you in the industry for this many years? And it's like, that is crucial, And so it was fun to have kind of I had the broad picture, but it's like I zoomed in on the painting for the first time, and I was like, oh, did you know there's IRMA? Oh my gosh, the NIIT. Why is nobody calculating this stuff? And so I think that it sometimes seems like I've sipped the Kool-Aid of tax return driven financial planning, because I think it's so awesome, and I feel like so many people are missing out on it that are working with, a traditional investment advisor.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, like, shifting a little bit from, hey, podcast anniversary celebration, there's the confetti, to like, how does this relate to retirement planning? One of the things I was thinking about is I was just thinking about our first year doing this, and it kind of comes a little bit more, just personally, like kind of how I operate and how I think about business building and relationships. But you remember like when TED Talks were a big thing back in the 2000s? I don't know when the last time I listened to a TED Talk was, and I'm not even sure if this was from a TED Talk, but I remember the moment where I was listening to somebody talk. It wasn't Steve Jobs, but it was somebody talking about Steve Jobs. And it was, they shared this quote from Steve Jobs. I hope it was from him, but it really impacted me. But they said, great things in business are never done by one person. They are done by a team of people. And I think that was attributed to Steve Jobs at one of his Apple town hall meetings. And I remember thinking, my default wiring, maybe like a lot of people that are out there listening and watching our channel, is I think I grew up in an environment where it was like, most of the time you got to do it yourself if you want a good job to be done. And I remember hearing that quote a long time ago, and it really challenged me that, really a lot of the impact in the world, whether it's, a financial planning office, whether it's a group of doctors, whether it's you enter any occupation out there, the people that really impact change on a much greater scale are doing it with other people, and they're not doing it by themselves. And I think, even there are other podcasts out there that are solo podcast hosts, and I think that's totally fine. But kind of back to bringing you on board and doing this, in some ways, like when you do it yourself, you have control. Nobody's going to challenge your thought process. You're in an echo chamber where you're the smartest person in the room. And, 13 years experience. I think you've been in the industry for maybe a little over 3 years, maybe at this point. And so there can be it can be a thought, I have lots more experience. And so therefore I am going to know the answer much more than other people. But it's so interesting, even as we've worked together in 3 years, the giftings and discernment that you have when I talk out loud, even when it's case design with other clients. Even just yesterday, I was thinking about a client needed something, and I gave an answer, and Adam was like, what if we proposed it this other way? And I was like, absolutely, that's a better way to do it. And so oftentimes, years of experience can be really helpful. I feel like I'm good at what I do, but when you're working in partnership with people, there can be those ideas that you think are really great until you say them publicly, and somebody gives a different perception to them or a different perspective. And I think that's like really, really valuable. And so as I transition from a podcast to retirement planning, I think there's this idea that, probably if I never came into this industry, I think I would have gone down this route of, accumulating, investing for the future. That's not very hard. Pick a couple index investing, maybe a target date retirement fund. I don't want anybody, sharing in, my wealth that I'm building. I can do this by myself. And you get to retirement and you kind of figure out, things are a little bit trickier than you thought. And, even kind of starting a podcast and, as simple as we thought it might have been when we first started out, you kind of realize, oh, wow, that camera formatting video card, it doesn't go into the OBS, recording software as easy as you want to. Why is this syncing feature it's like this constant struggle.
And the part that gets me every week, and maybe if you're a little bit older and not as tech savvy, you can resonate with this. We set everything up the exact same way every week, but somehow some settings different every week. So it's like, anyway, but every week we come in, we're like, why is this different this week? And so we know how you feel, as a lot of the world's adjusting to more technology stuff.
And so it's like retirement planning and getting ready for retirement is filled with and I think the decumulation phase is filled with these I never really thought about it that way, and I didn't realize that was an issue until it came up on my tax return, and I didn't know the net investment income tax. And so I think maybe like one of the virtues that we've learned through doing this for a year is that it's not unlike retirement planning with a lot of our clients that, doing it in partnership with people and having other people to help you makes a really big difference, I think, over multiple years.
Yeah, and I think everybody has, and we talk about this, everybody has biases, everybody has blind spots. And so I think working with someone you trust is really helpful because they can help you say, hey, have you thought about this? Or, hey, when you talk about this, I can tell maybe you have a bad taste in your mouth. Tell me more about that. And you can dig a little bit deeper and double click on some things that maybe left to your own devices, you'd miss out on some opportunity or miss out on a tool that could be a good use in your tool belt in specific use cases. So I think that's helpful insight. And so I guess we're not really saying everybody should go out and hire a financial advisor, but what would you kind of encourage people in as we think about financial planning and teaming together and working together? Because I know we've done videos in the past about, hey, build a team with a CPA or a tax preparer and a financial planner that does tax return driven financial planning. But where would you kind of leave people with today? Maybe a call to action or what it would look like for the DIYers out there?
Yeah. Well, and even really for the delegators too, people that don't want to do it. I think this could be universal advice, but I think there's a really important skill set of talking out loud to somebody about anything that you're doing that's important. And so whether, for some people, maybe you hear this and you're like, well, I need a financial planner. That's what he's saying. By all means, we'd be happy. Email us. Would love to, entertain a conversation to work with you. We hope everybody does. But at the same time, I'm also not saying everybody needs to rush out, hire a financial planner because of this episode on our 1-year anniversary. The main point here is that it could be a financial planner. It could be having a deeper discussion with their tax preparer. It could be if you're married, and this is probably what I'd like to major on, is let's say you're married, and I can tell even from a lot of people that listen to our podcast and the comments that they leave, they're usually really smart and they're interested in taxes, and it's probably a stereotype, but I think the correlation factor is real high that if you're married and you're leaving a comment and you're talking about IRMA surcharges and Medicare and the 24% tax bracket, I would be surprised if your spouse feels the same passion about tax planning that you do. And so I think one of the things I've learned in marriage, whether I've learned in a working relationship with Adam, whether I've learned in podcasting or helping retiree clients, is do not discount that spouse who doesn't care about this as much as you. They're going to be bringing a skill set that is probably very different to your retirement equation. It could be, hey, honey, my life is not a math equation. We don't need to optimize for every single dollar. In fact, I'd like to be a little happier, and it'd be great if you'd pay some taxes and we could, do a couple more things instead of trying to build a great nest egg that, eliminates the amount of taxes to the government. And so my point is, I've seen time and time again where that spouse that, husband or wife, whichever one is less involved, sometimes that the more dominating spouse, as I'm talking to him, I can sense the wisdom in the other spouse of trying to kind of reel that spouse back in. And again, every relationship is a little different, but you can, especially things that you're very good at, you can have a tendency to kind of lower the volume for other people that don't spend as much time thinking about it. And I think that's where this, like the title of this is A Great Retirement Requires a Team. If you're married, it could be your spouse might be an even better teammate than you expected. Or maybe you're married and you both need help. Maybe a financial planner could actually be more valuable than you anticipate and maybe worth the expense of hiring one. And maybe you're not married and maybe you don't have a financial planner. Maybe your situation doesn't require a financial planner, but you still need help. Maybe you're divorced. Maybe you're widowed. It could be a kid that you trust and that you just need to speak out loud your goals, your feelings, your fears about your finances. Or it could just be a friend, a roommate, somebody. But I think there's a general rule here that even if you're really great at this or you're really, really bad at this, having somebody that can come alongside you in partnership is probably going to lead to some of those great things as a team that you can accomplish rather than, by yourself.
Yeah, and I can't speak for all financial planners. There's thousands of them out there. I'm sure some great, some not so great, just like any industry. But a lot of times, too, it could just be as simple as getting a second opinion, saying, hey, can we sit down for an hour and just kind of discuss things? And maybe you leave that and say, yeah, I got things buttoned up. This is really good. I'm in a good spot. My spouse doesn't have the technical chops, but, meeting with somebody that does have those and kind of just talking through things with them was helpful. I know I've gone back and forth on email a few times with some people that are just interested to hear, hey, is this a good idea or should I be going down this route? And obviously we're not making full-on recommendations to people that aren't clients, but we can help kind of discern, hey, it'd be a really good idea for us to sit down and meet together, or hey, it seems like you're kind of on the right track, let us know if you need something in the future.
Yeah, sure.
And so that can be helpful as well, and we're always happy to do that. And there's no obligation or anything. We don't hold you hostage and make you come on board as a client. I'd say we turn away probably as many people as we accept, just because it's not always a great fit.
Yeah.
For what we're doing and kind of the optimizations that we're helping people do. But I think this was, an interesting episode, just as a year to reflect back and think, hey, we're glad we did this. We're glad we had a team. Glad we've got a long-term vision for this, and we're working towards it together. And I think it is funny looking back over our last 3 episodes. We do one like highly technical. We're like on there screen sharing. Check that one out. If you're like, hey, this is too up in the clouds, this is too kind of theorizing and thinking, go check that one out. We also had one where it's kind of in between, talking about the psychology, and then one here just kind of, hey, we think it'd be a good idea to have a team, build a team for financial planning and retirement. And so our hope is that we hit a lot of different segments. And so if this one doesn't land or doesn't hit home, I guess, as much, then go check out another episode. We've got a lot of different content up. And I think, too, we said we were going to work on not doing this at the end every time, but here we are.
Yeah.
Go check out our website, retirementtaxmatters.com. We've got our year-end tax planning checklist that I think is just the best value of anything you could ever trade your email address for. And I go on and on about it, but I'm always constantly blown away with the content that Garrett puts together and sends out to you guys, to either clients or prospects, whoever it's going out to. It is really, really quality content. And maybe if you're subscribed to that, maybe you're in the comments, throw it down below. Say, hey, I really enjoyed this, or I like this, because it helps other people find out, hey, they're not blowing smoke. This is really, really a great tool in the tool belt. And there's always that beautiful little underlined unsubscribe button at the bottom if it's not for you. But I think it's worth checking out.
Yeah, and so I just want to, maybe I'd end this episode on 1 year in the books. It's been an honor to do this with you, and I anticipate doing this for a long time. So we're gonna kind of, I think we did 44 out of 52 weeks in our first year, which I feel like is pretty impressive.
Not bad.
And I think we're on pace to probably do it a little bit better even this week or this year. But it's also been really cool, I think, for Adam and I, even as people are coming on board as clients, and I see Adam working with our existing clients, just to even being at our firm for over a year and a half now is like you're getting wonderful and great with these things, and I anticipate year two here that we do with retirement. We're going to be hearing more from Adam as we do these things, but I look forward to doing this with you.
Watch out. Garrett's going to give me the keys to the podcast. Who knows where we'll end up, but it'll be a lot of fun. So we appreciate you guys following along. Like I said, like, subscribe, follow, all the different things, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and check out the website. Like I said, I think it's one of the best values for something you can trade your email address for. So we appreciate you guys. Wouldn't be doing this without you all. Looking forward to year two, season 2. Retirement tax. They renewed us. Season 2 of Retirement Tax Matters.
Right.
I'm Adam Reed. This is Garrett Crawford. We're Retirement Tax Matters.
Thanks so much for listening to Retirement Tax Matters. As always, the ideas we share here are for educational purposes, and we do our best to get it right, but this isn't a substitute for specific tax or financial advice, because a truly effective strategy is always built around your personal situation. For more resources and to see our full disclosure, visit us at retirementtaxmatters.com.